Carteret got boiled and pop. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. I'm absolutely pleased and thrilled to be bringing you another episode of this show. And tonight I have an amazing guest who is about to embark on a superintendent transition. He's a veteran leader who has been given the opportunity to return to or to serve in his home district shortly. And as superintendents, we love those assignments that give us more responsibility as we continue to grow in our careers. And so we're excited to have him on the show tonight. And before we get going any further, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for your continued support of the work that we're doing here on the Wright Experience. Amazingly, now we're in about 18 months of providing you this content, and I'm excited about the opportunities that await us to continue to move forward with bringing you the very best leadership guests that I can find. Tonight, our guest is Dr. Rob Jackson. Dr. Rob Jackson is a native North Carolinian and a public school graduate. He began his tenure as the superintendent of Carteret County School System on the Crystal Coast of North Carolina on July 1st of 2020. Recently, he has been selected as the superintendent-elect of Buncombe County Schools in his hometown of Asheville, North Carolina. During his tenure of the Carteret County School System, Dr. Jackson helped lead the successful passage of a $42 million school construction bond to fund construction projects on each school campus in the system. An additional $12.9 million was secured through state grants. Advocating for staff members, Dr. Jackson led efforts to increase local supplements for certified and classified staff members for the first time in approximately 15 years. Approaching the 2022-2023 school year, working in partnership with county and municipal leaders, school resource officers have been funded and placed in elementary, middle, and high schools throughout the system. Dr. Jackson often comments that in an excellent system, excellence permeates throughout the system, not just in pockets. During his tenure, every school in the school system met or exceeded growth during the 2021-2022 school year. Every eligible elementary, middle, and high school in the system was recognized by U.S. News and World Report in their Best Schools report. Each school in the school system has been recognized by the NC Department of Public Instruction as well for 2 consecutive years with the Purple Star Award for service to military-connected students and families. He previously served for 6 years as the superintendent of the Edenton school system in northeastern North Carolina. During his tenure there, the school system's cohort graduation rate rose from 78.9% to 93% for the class of 2020. During his final year, he served as superintendent there. Every school in the school system met or exceeded growth, and the middle and high school earned their highest school performance grades ever. Dr. Jackson believes in growing and coaching leaders. During his tenure amongst the Edenton leadership team, 2 of his principals were named Regional Principal of the Year, and he also had another employee that was named the Regional Career Technical Education Director of the Year. 3 of his former assistant superintendents are now serving as superintendents. I think I read something on that today. And additionally, the Board of Education received the NCSBA Board Leadership State Award. Prior to being named the superintendent, Dr. Jackson served in Union County Public Schools near Charlotte, where he received and served on the superintendent's executive cabinet as the chief communications officer. Dr. Jackson has also served as a school secretary, a bus driver, a summer custodian, an after-school associate, a teacher, assistant principal, elementary principal, high school principal, and chief communications officer. He also served in the Navy aboard the USS Iwo Jima. Dr. Jackson has earned numerous state national awards. He was selected in 2020 as the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's Superintendent of the Year. He was selected as the first superintendent to receive the Dr. Sam Houston Leadership Award in 2019. And in 2017, Dr. Jackson was unanimously selected as the Regional Superintendent of the Year for the Northeast region of North Carolina. Dr. Jackson has earned a doctorate in educational leadership from Wingate University, an educational specialist degree from Wingate University, a Master of School Administration degree from Western Carolina, and a Bachelor of Science degree from Western Carolina as well, and an associate's degree from Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College. Dr. Jackson serves in leadership roles for several civic and professional organizations. Dr. Jackson is certainly a man of faith and a man that I have admired and enjoyed working with for many, many years. I can go all the way back to the first time we met, Dr. Jackson, in a Northeast RESA meeting, and you have certainly been a friend ever since then. And pleased to have you on the show and want to welcome you to the Wright Experience.
Dr. Wright, thank you so much. I'm extremely excited about having the opportunity to have a conversation with you. I certainly loved when we were able to do that on at least a monthly basis in our regional meetings, because I always found you to be an incredible role model and someone whose wisdom, expertise, and experience I leaned on heavily.
Well, it's my pleasure, and certainly I have admired your leadership and am proud of the progress that you're making and the amazing outcomes that you have been and are continuing to provide for children. So, and congratulations on your new appointment.
Thanks.
So I want to get right into the questions, if I might. I want to start off by asking you to talk to us about the amazing work that's going on in the Carteret County School System currently, and then talk to us about the transition to Buncombe and what you hope to begin accomplishing back home.
Well, thank you very much. I tell you, I've been extremely excited about the success our students, teachers, and staff members have had in Carteret County. As you know, as everyone knows, the last couple of years, 3 years really, impacted by the pandemic have been quite difficult as we've encountered challenges none of us, quite frankly, could have imagined. And so as educators, we were asked to completely reimagine how every single process in the school happened, how children went to the restroom, if children could even come in to the building, and if they came into the building, taking temperatures and asking questions and close contact tracing and quarantining and keeping track of all of that, and putting tape on the halls so the students only walked one direction and went to the bathroom one at a time, and the way they got on buses. All of those things were brand new, unique, and novel, and in some ways unimaginable before the pandemic. And what we've seen, and I know what you've seen there in Sumter and in your work previously, is educators step up to the plate.
That's right.
And say out loud, we can do hard things because our children are worthy of our very best efforts. And so we'll learn how to do things differently. We'll follow all the rules with fidelity, and we're going to do what it takes to help our children be successful. And so here in Carteret County, we were quite fortunate to bring our students back pretty early on. And what that meant was that we had to really be very mindful of all those mitigation strategies to get our children back in the building. And so after the 21-22 school year, we were so grateful to see all of our schools meet or exceed growth and academic metric here in the state of North Carolina, where we look at where children start and where they end at the end of the year on versus expectations. And seeing that happen really showed us, just as you shared in that bio, and thank you for sharing all that. I got tired just listening to it. But as you shared, I really do believe that if we have an excellent system, that excellence permeates throughout the system. We don't just have pockets of excellence. And so when we see children succeeding throughout the system, succeeding academically, succeeding artistically, succeeding athletically, then we can be quite pleased and quite proud of our efforts. And I'm certainly very proud of the work of our team here in Carteret County, and know that Carteret County will continue to grow forward and continue to do amazing things well past the fulfillment of my season here.
And that's exactly what it is, a season where there was a lot of progress and some amazing things. And Dr. Jackson, I'm going to deviate a little bit here. We all thought when you were in Edenton Chowan, and then when you matriculated to Carteret, those of us that were a part of seeing that work from a distance or next door, however you want to look at it, we all noticed that you insisted upon making sure that social platform was out there, that those social media posts were up front and prevalent, and you kind of drug us all along kicking and screaming initially to do that. So why was that so important to you to make sure that there was a social media presence that came from the superintendent's office?
Well, listen, thank you so much for asking that question, because it's something that I absolutely adamantly believe in that if we don't tell our story,
That's right.
no one else will, or they'll tell a story about us that may or may not be accurate and may not have the spin on it, if we want to use that word, that we may want on it. And so I do think it's incredibly important for us to share the good work of the teachers and staff and students that we serve for a multitude of reasons. One, because they deserve the shout out, they deserve the accolades in a time where it's hard to recruit and retain teachers and staff. Something like an attaboy from the superintendent or an attagirl from the school system social media accounts becomes really important. And so that piece, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm.
In a time, though, when the notion of choice in education is so prevalent across really lots of platforms, and we know that parents have choices and they can choose where to send their children if they have the resources to do so. When we tell our story, we help our parents understand what they're choosing between. And when they know the great things happening in our school systems, they'll choose our public school system. And so when we start talking about things that are new in our lexicon as educators, like market share,
Right.
If we want to win the market share battle against things other than public education, we've got to tell our story. And when we tell the story of the remarkable folks we serve with, I do believe that we begin to see an uptick in our market share. And one example of how that paid off, if we use that language, is in Edenton. Edenton's a very small school system with 4 schools, incredible school system, wonderful folks who are serving in a very remote and rural part of the state. I could not love that area anymore. But we worked really hard to tell the story of the Edenton Chowan school system.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, did such a great job that 3 times in the same calendar year, we were invited to come present to the State Board of Education in Raleigh to share about 3 different areas we were having success in. Previously, the school system had never been invited to present to the State Board of Education. But because we told our story, others began to see what was happening and say, hey, we want to look at that. And it gave us an opportunity to open up avenues of communication so we could also learn from others. And so bringing that acknowledgement and accolades helps with recruitment and retention of teachers and staff. It helps get our parents and community behind our school system and choosing us. And it also helps make sure we're getting the messaging out. And that's so important and critical, particularly when we turn to part of the work that none of us love a whole lot, which is when we have to go with our hand out, begging for some dollars to help resource our schools. And that's part of the job, and we know we've got to do it. But if we've done a good job telling our story, others want to invest in the work we're doing.
And that very first statement that you said and all of that is so key. Somebody's going to tell our story. You didn't say it quite like this, but somebody's going to tell our story that might as well be us.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's right. And so thank you so much for that perspective, and thank you for challenging all of us to get better. I'm in a district now where social media presence is the expectation
There you go.
here, and you helped to prepare me for that. So
Hey, it's teamwork, right? You
there
and I
you go. There
together.
you go.
Yes,
So, Dr. Jackson, let's say that today, and you certainly have three folks, as you mentioned earlier, that are now that have worked under your leadership at one point in time in your career, that are now superintendents. I've got one, and I'm working on a couple more, hopefully. And that's a wonderful thing. So, as time goes on, let's say there's a new person out there just getting started, trying to figure out their next steps, and perhaps one day wants to be the superintendent of a school district like the ones that we have served in. What advice would you give them?
Well, thank you for that question. One of the things that I've always believed strongly in is one, I love our profession. I love being an educator. It has done so much for me and my family and provided us so many opportunities. And so I feel a need to give back to our profession. I know that I stand on the shoulders of giants who poured into me as a young educator and lit the fire within me and helped me grow. And so I feel a responsibility to continue that, to pour into others, to help them find opportunities like some helped me find opportunities. And so that's a part of what I believe is the responsibility of a leader, is to help grow the next generation of leaders. For someone who aspires to the superintendency, I do think that it's important to think about the experiences we have along the way. Now, it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter template model to get to the superintendency. Many times that is through the assistant superintendency. For myself, I never had the title assistant superintendent. I never meant to be a chief communications officer, but my superintendent called us and said, I'd like you to do this work. And I was always taught when the superintendent asked that the answer is yes, yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what I said.
Right.
But still, my career continued forward. And I believe it's because, and I think what's very important is wherever we are, the old saying is bloom where you're planted. We have to give our all in the work we're doing today. Work ethic matters. Being kind to people matters. Caring matters. Continuing to uplift all around us, those around us, matters. And when we do that, opportunities come find us. There's a lot to this question of being prepared for a superintendency or considering a superintendency. There's things like geography. You and I have worked in different areas, and we've been blessed to be a part of some amazing communities, and we're enriched by that experience. Some, because of family commitments and other things, may not have the flexibility to be able to move around. And so we have to know that about ourselves. Am I flexible with where I serve? Another thing we need to know and really consider is our family. Is our family willing to sacrifice for us to put in the long hours it takes to do the work? Because it does take long hours, and our support system is so very important. And so for someone who's considering it, I just think that probably the best advice I could give is to find someone who's in the work, who clearly is a caring individual, and come alongside them and say, hey, what would you share with me? To find a mentor and then become a mentor to someone else.
So I like both of those very last things. We talk about and we stress finding a mentor, but then it's our responsibility, is it, that once we have done this work for some time to be mentors to someone else, isn't it? So, Dr. Jackson, let's talk about mentoring. You've done some amazing work with mentoring others. What is it about that work that you enjoy and use as a benchmark to do the work that you do?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So I was really excited over the course of my career. I spent quite a bit of time as a high school principal and as an elementary school principal. And I had, at last count, 13 assistant principals that I worked with as principal who became principal. And you mentioned the 3 assistant superintendents who are superintendents now. And so that's always been something I've been very passionate about. And so as a principal mentoring assistant principals, as a superintendent mentoring assistant superintendents, I've always felt like it's so very important to be transparent, to bring those leaders into the room and talk about and talk through my thinking and to allow their thinking to inform my thinking. So we're working together always, and it's always about that team. But ultimately, one person wears the decision, one person bears the responsibility and can be voted out at any board meeting. And so we know that we know that's how it works.
Sure.
But as I work through that decision making process, I really try to do that and really talk out loud my thinking, particularly when it comes to an issue where we may be considering reality versus perception. The reality may be this, but people may think that. And so I've got to be aware of both of those things as we make the right decision for our children and our school system. And so I think that's a piece of it. I've also been blessed to serve in the North Carolina School Superintendents Association Aspiring Superintendents Program. And at this point, we have 32 graduates who are currently serving as superintendents in the state of North Carolina. We have 115 superintendents in North Carolina. 32 of them are graduates of this program, and we're just in our 7th cohort. This year will be our 7th year. I think that we've seen such success, and sometimes success is somebody going through the program and saying, I don't think I really want to be a superintendent. That could be a successful outcome as well for that person, so they don't try something that doesn't work out well for them in the future. But some of that is spending time being very truthful and being very honest about the work. Because the work isn't easy. The work can be very hard. You can get tripped up by factors beyond your control, particularly if you're not paying attention. And so we really have to be mindful and thoughtful. And so doing that work has been very rewarding. But I think for me, it just always comes back to, I started out in a very rural area in Swannanoa, North Carolina, just outside of Asheville. And had it not been for amazing teachers and a principal, his name, Mr. Bill Williams, he'd meet us as we got off the bus every morning and call us by name. I might have been like many of my classmates, quit school before graduating, went to work at the textile mill, one of 4 in the county, that, by the way, don't exist anymore. Those textile mills are gone. But that wasn't my trajectory in life because of amazing teachers and principals who mentored me, who poured into me. And so, it's that other saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've certainly been blessed in my life. And so trying my best to be a blessing for others is something that's important to me and something I try to do. But then again, I get as much from everyone I'm with as I give and much more. Just like my relationship with you, I get so much just from being able to call myself your friend and listen to your wise counsel. And I certainly appreciate that.
Likewise, and right back at you, my brother. I appreciate that. And we do have to continue to sharpen ourselves by networking and interacting with each other and sharing best practices, and every once in a while uplifting each other, because this work is at times a heavy lift. One of the other things that you do and have been at the forefront of is talking about personal wellness. The bike rides where you send us the tweets in the morning and all that. I'm telling on you a little bit. What made you get into that line of challenging those of us in leadership again?
Well, I tell you, it is, I don't guess there is a profession that's easy.
Sure.
But being an educator, being an educational leader can be just incredibly stressful as we carry the weight of every child and every teacher and every staff member that we serve. And we do so because we love them and we care about them. And that love and care can create stress and anxiety as we worry about those who are in our charge and worry about, will someone come into a building and try to do something awful and hurt or harm one of our folks? There's a lot that goes with that. And so we do have to be very mindful of practicing self-care, of giving ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. It's not selfish to practice self-care. Really, it's giving to everybody we serve. And so for me, I think about the factors of body and heart and mind and spirit, and all 4 of those being really important. Body, just doing something to take care of our body so we're physically able to serve. I love to run and ride my bike, but it could be gardening or taking a walk with my wife or walking the dog or simply just being active in some manner. And then thinking about heart, spending time with family and loved ones and neighbors and friends and people we care about certainly is uplifting in our lives. And spirit, for some of us, that's our faith walk and really drawing into that. And for others, it's being uplifted just by being in nature and appreciating all we see. And then certainly the mind piece of it, growing ourselves intellectually, whether that's reading a great book, a great fiction book that has nothing to do with education, or doing some research that we're fascinated with, but don't have time during the workday. So, really thinking about how can we build ourselves up so that when we approach this hard work, we're coming with the best of us and not what's left of us because we've been so worn down. And so I do think that's important. I do share, you and I have several very close friends who share a lot, and I love it. I'll call out a name. One of our good friends, Dr. Tony Jackson, shares a lot of his own fitness journey, and it's motivating to me. And so when I share, it's really more about wanting to motivate others to say, hey, let's do this together. Let's be fit. Let's really think about this and let's push each other because it's important to take care of ourselves so we have something left for our families at the end of this day.
And those are such great reminders. Even if we go a day or two and don't remember, and we see one of those tweets, they certainly help to remind. And so I commend you and certainly implore that you keep that up, keep us on our toes when it comes to that. Dr. Jackson, in this world that we are working in, and certainly with all the challenges that we have, one of the largest challenges is that we are now, for the first time in my remembrance, having difficulty no matter where we are, recruiting and retaining quality personnel. And used to be that if you were rural or small or kind of out of the way, you might have had those challenges, but now it's affecting everybody. What do we do about that moving forward? How can we help make that better moving forward, in your opinion?
But I tell you, that's certainly one area that I wish I had the silver bullet that we could snap our fingers and fix that, because we know the number one factor in student success is the teacher in the classroom. No question, it's not close. Number two, according to the research, is the principal in the building. So we need great people doing the work. And so recruiting and retaining great people is crucial to the work we do. I think a piece of it is going back to telling our story so that folks hear about our great school system and they want to be a part of that exciting work, and really talking about with our students in our buildings. We have a captive audience in our schools, but talking about what a rewarding career it is to be a teacher. So we've had career days as long as I've been an educator. And often we bring in people who do lots of work, doctors and lawyers and medical professionals and wonderful folks. But not too often do we put a teacher in the room behind a table and say, hey, you might want to be a teacher, or a principal in the room behind a table and say, hey, you might want to be a principal. So we've really got to think about how we tell the story of our profession. Here in Carteret County, and it's not unique to us, but one of the things we worked on was through our education foundation and through the generosity of our community, and particularly the Big Rock Fishing Tournament was our title sponsor. We created a local teaching fellow scholarship. And so one senior from every high school in our district receives a full ride scholarship, so a 4-year scholarship to earn their bachelor's degree in teaching, and then in exchange agrees to come back and teach in our school system for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So like the state program that used to exist in a much larger way, it's still there, but in kind of smaller, little more difficult to get into. We created a local teaching fellow scholarship because we felt like if we could get our students to be excited about teaching, get that scholarship, but then come back for 4 years, that after that 4 years, they'd want to stay with us because they would have seen the aha moment when a child read for the first time or succeeded for the first time. And they'd say, you know what, I want to do that too. And so that's a couple of ideas around that. certainly we keep our eyes open, try to figure out what really smart people like you are doing and try to emulate that. But that is certainly one of the big things that keeps me up at night is making sure we have great folks around us.
Yeah, and it's a never-ending battle, and I've said that we certainly need to do all of those things, and try to make sure that we're creating the best environments. We got to learn how to train the folks that we are employing now a little bit differently, because school business is different, and everybody's not a teacher ed major that we hire now, so we're going to have to train them a little bit differently. But I'm also, Dr. Jackson, telling folks that we don't like that P word, but we got to work on the compensation of our educational professionals. We got to get that better. People don't want to hear that, but that's a part of it as well.
It is.
Yes,
You're
it
exactly
absolutely
right.
is. Dr. Jackson, so you have had the opportunity, as many of us have, to look for and hire leaders and place them in schools and district offices now, and all over the place. So, to help our listeners, what do you look for in a leader?
Sure. I love that question. And so for me, one of the things I really try to tease out just by being in the person's presence, if they're coming to the district from outside the district, and certainly you pick up on this working with somebody if they're in the district and applying for a new opportunity in the district, and that's trying to figure out who they are as a person. Because what I'm looking for is someone who's genuinely kind, someone who really cares, who doesn't just give lip service to loving students and wanting to be in this work, who absolutely knows their why and they're passionate about it. When we're in an interview and we ask folks about why do you want to be a teacher, why do you want to serve, I'm looking for somebody to lean forward in their seat and get really excited and their hands start flying around in the air because they're so ready to take care of children. I'm certainly looking for the competency piece, the capacity piece, the I understand teaching and learning. If we're going to talk about an elementary principal, for example, I want to know that they know what it is to teach reading comprehension, that they're up to date on those things that are the cutting edge, that they can talk about the science of reading and why our teachers are going through all the professional development they're in right now. And it should be clear to me that they have been active participants in professional development because they're able to talk the talk. And then beyond that, I'll work that out a little bit. Beyond the talk piece, we got to walk the walk, right? And so we're looking for, if it's an assistant principal who wants to be a principal, if I'm in the building and the person that aspires to the principalship is always in their office, I note that. And later we might be in an interview and I'm thinking about that person's always in their office. Well, that's not where the work happens. The work happens in our classrooms, and that's where they really need to be. And so I am looking for that. I'm certainly looking for small things that sometimes we don't think about, like, are you making eye contact with the interview committee? Now, as we hire, and as I've hired in Edenton and Carteret, and we'll continue that practice in the future, I've had teachers around the table, particularly when we're hiring principals. I want teachers from the building who have a voice in that process. And if the person who's interviewing spends the entire time looking at and addressing the superintendent, then they've just messed up in my world. Yeah. I want them looking at and addressing the teachers, the people who are doing the work. If we're sitting around a table and you want to point out the rock stars, let's point to the teachers who are with our kids every single day. And so those little things I really try to look for. But I also put quite a bit into the reputation of the person. When I call for references, if I'm just getting the vanilla, great person, does a good job, okay, whatever. That means nothing to me. That's almost neutral. What I'm looking for is if I called you, Dr. Wright, to get a reference for somebody you had served with, and you were mad at me for making that call, then I probably want to work with that person, right? I want the person you don't want to lose because they're doing such a great job. And so, all those little things, but really, I'm just trying to get a feel of who is this person as a person, because our principal becomes the face of the school, and we hope a role model for all the students and all the staff in that building. The superintendent and district leaders, the same thing. We need to really exude and live the core values of the school system.
And especially in today's market, as we referred to earlier, you certainly have to get those decisions right, or as right as you can.
That's right.
Because the success of children is dependent on those decisions that we make. Thank you for that. What amazing insight. Dr. Jackson, is there anything else that I have not covered that you would like to share with our audience at this time?
Well, I tell you, early on, you asked me about Buncombe County, and I didn't really mention that. And I'll just say that, I'm looking forward to this new opportunity in my career. I'm a little intimidated, of course, having the opportunity to go home to where I went to school and where I started my career, and was able to do things like be a school secretary while going to school to be a teacher. It's an amazing school system that's been served incredibly well for 14 years by Dr. Baldwin, who's been their superintendent and one of my educational heroes. And so as I go there as much a novice as I've ever been in my career. And I've been a superintendent now, I'm in my 9th year, but I'm going feeling like and trying to really assume the facade and just being a brand new educational leader with my ears open and my eyes open, and wanting to learn all I can about this new system, because it is an incredible opportunity to be able to serve in the system that really is so responsible for the blessings I've had in my life. And of course, I'll tell you that one of the big selling points is that my mom's very happy about this decision, and she's promised me dinner every Sunday after church. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Oh, wow. You're going to get some good food too. How about that?
Exactly.
That's amazing. And congratulations to you for getting that opportunity. And knowing you, like I know you, and watching your work, you've got just what you need to be successful. Trust me, I'm 95 days, I think it is, into this new responsibility I have here. And I get the apprehensions, brother, trust me. But we are equipped to do this work. And trust me, when you get there, those experiences that you've had have well prepared you for that work that's ahead. And just go be Rob Jackson. You're going to do extremely well. And I can't wait to hear all those wonderful things that you're achieving for your home district. I know that's got to be exciting to you.
Yes, sir.
So if you will just hold on with me for a minute, we'll come back and close out the show.
Yes.
My guest next week on the Wright Experience will be Dr. Eric Cunningham. Dr. Cunningham is the superintendent of Halifax County Schools in North Carolina. He has served that district as superintendent for about 7 years now, and we're looking forward to having him on the show. That'll be next week, the 13th of October, 2022. Following him on the 20th of October, 2022, we'll have Dean Michael Sontag, who is the Dean of USC Sumter. So that is a 2 and 4 year university right here in Sumter, South Carolina. We'll have him on there. And also later on this month, we will have another of my colleagues who serves as a superintendent in South Carolina. Amazing guests, amazing opportunities to learn more about how to be better leaders from all of the above. And I'm just so blessed and thankful to be able to continue to bring this content to you. And I'm excited about us continuing to do so at this level. Dr. Jackson, my friend, I've been waiting for the opportunity to get you up here. I knew that you would bring it and do some amazing things and share some amazing insight with our audience. I am certainly proud to have you as a colleague, and I admire the work that you've been doing for students for all these years.
Dr. Wright, thank you so much for the opportunity. And as I heard you introduce your next few guests, I got really excited. So I'm looking forward to hearing those conversations myself. I certainly want to applaud you for the work that you do and for the work you do on this podcast. The Wright Experience really gives all of us another platform to learn from and learn with. And so thank you for doing that work as well, my friend. I certainly
Yes.
appreciate you.
And once you get in Buncombe and get settled, this platform is open for you to come back at any time, and we'll talk about that amazing work that's going on there as well.
Excellent.
To the Wright Experience audience, I want to say thank you for continuing to view. Please click like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know how you're enjoying the content. That always helps us, and we appreciate the opportunity to bring this content to you. Thank you, and good evening.